Hello, I'm Bonnie from Circle City Seeds, and we need to build a new compost bin, so I thought I would take you along and show you how we built ours, so you can follow along if you want to build your own. Fall is a great time to get started composting here in Indiana because the leaves are starting to fall, so you can get a great start on your piles just from collecting your grass clippings and leaves. There are many ways to compost, from hot composting, which involves a larger pile and turning it more often, to cold composting, which is less labor intensive but takes longer. I prefer to compost somewhere in the middle, but closer to the cold composting side, adding materials about once a week and turning it sporadically. This way we get a chunk of compost about once a year. I usually add this compost into the garden at planting time. I'm also hoping to make compost teas with it soon. You can build your compost bin out of a variety of materials. You can purchase tumbler bins or kits. You can build one out of scrap wood, metal, fencing, or pallets. Or you can even just make one giant pile. We're building our new bins similar to our previous bins that survived 2 moves and lasted about 12 years. We were hoping to take those with us to the new house earlier this year, but the wood we used wasn't pressure-treated wood, and it was just starting to fall apart. I like to have 3 bins, one to add compost into, one empty one to flip compost back and forth, and a third one for older or completed compost. Our last bins were made out of wood and metal wire mesh, and this is how we're going to build the new ones. For our new bins, we're going to use wood that is treated to be used outside, 1/2 inch hardware cloth, screws, and staples. Our bin is going to be 3 feet tall, so we are purchasing 4 of the 4x4x6 pressure-treated ground contact posts, and we'll cut them down to size. For the horizontal boards, we decided to save a little bit of money and use the 6-foot dog-eared fencing boards, and we will need 12 of these. And for the hardware cloth, we purchased a 25-foot roll and a 5-foot roll of the 1/2 inch wide, 3-foot tall rolls. The reason we made our bins 3 feet tall instead of 4 foot tall was because of the cost and availability of the hardware cloth rolls. The 4-foot rolls are a bit harder to find and are about 3 times more expensive than 3-foot rolls. For putting it all together, we used some leftover 1.25" deck screws and some staples. I used some leftover nails the last time around, but screws should hold up better. We used an electric drill and driver and pre-drilled the holes to prevent splitting and to make the process go faster, but feel free to use what you have. You'll also need some wire cutters for cutting the hardware cloth, and I would also recommend wearing some kind of gloves and safety glasses. And while you could probably build the whole thing by yourself, it would be easier and faster to have a second person help you. We need to make some wood cuts before assembling. We cut all the 4x4x6 boards in half to make them 3 foot long. We cut 8 of the 12 fencing boards to 4 feet long, and we saved 4 of the offcuts of the fencing boards, which are 2 feet long. So in total, we ended up with 8 4x4x3 posts, 8 4-foot long fencing boards, and 4 2-foot long fencing boards. We're going to end up with a compost bin that is 12 foot long, 4 feet deep, and 3 feet tall. We took all of our cut pieces of wood out to the spot where we're going to have the bin because it would be a bit of a pain and awkward to build it in the garage or driveway and carry it back to the yard. We decided to put the compost bin in the back of the yard, on the same side as the garden, and also near where we plan to put a shed in the future. I would not recommend placing your compost bin next to your house or your neighbor's houses, just in case it starts to smell or if pests start to get into them, such as termites with a wooden bin like this. We started with the back wall first. We laid everything out to where it was going to go and attached the 4 6-foot horizontal fence boards to the vertical 4x4 posts at the top and bottom of each side. We attached the outside 4x4 posts first, and then the 2 posts for the middle bin. We then aligned our 2 assembled pieces so that the fencing boards would touch and turn the 2 6-foot sections into one 12-foot wall. We attached them all together by using the 4 leftover pieces of fencing that we saved as lapping boards and screwing them all together. To make sure that everything was pretty stable, we put 1 on each side of the joint. To build the other pieces, we attached the 4-foot fencing boards to the top and bottom of each of the remaining 4x4 posts. We then stood the back wall upright and attached them all together. After the main structure of the bin was all put together, I attached the hardware cloth to the bins. I unrolled the hardware cloth and secured it to the bins with staples. You can attach the hardware cloth to the inside or the outside of the bin, whatever floats your boat. Eventually, we would like to add in some extra pieces to the front in order to slide boards in and keep the dogs out, because they will roll in it. On our last bin, we used a scrap piece of lattice secured with 2 up-bent nails to keep it in place, which worked fine. To fill your compost bin, all you need are greens, which can be grass clippings, food scraps, weeds, basically anything that is green and fresh. You'll also need browns, which are usually fall leaves, cardboard, plain, non-glossy paper, and newsprint. So basically anything that used to be green. You'll want to pile them up, alternating greens and browns when you can, and wait. The bigger the pile and the more often you turn it, the quicker it'll break down. We don't add any cooked food or meat to our compost to cut down on the smell and hopefully to not attract some of the more unwanted visitors, such as cockroaches and raccoons. You can find lists online of what materials you can and can't compost, and you can actually compost a lot of your household waste. However, do not put human, dog, or cat waste into your compost if you plan on using that compost on plants that you're going to be harvesting your food from. Thank you so much for watching, and if you want to learn more about saving all different types of seeds or other gardening projects such as this, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment below what seed-saving video you would like to see next. If you would like to purchase some of the seeds I've collected, you can do so in my Etsy shop or on my website, circlecityseed.com. Happy composting!